everything you need to know about swimming. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Beck for anyone new here. I am a full-time content creator, athlete and rider, and I mostly share about swimming, running, triathlon and my everyday life here on the Gold Coast. I get so many questions about swimming specifically, and a lot of questions come up repetitively, so I thought why not make one video where I answer all of your questions. So I've made a lot of notes on here and I thought we could just talk through that today. So some of the topics I thought we could cover include pool etiquette, swimwear, equipment, hair care, skincare and body care. That is the most common question I get asked. Before we jump into that, I thought I would give you a bit of a background on my swimming history. So I started swimming when I was only 4 months old. I started swimming lessons at the local pool. I swam competitively all through high school. Since then, I've trained as a pool sprinter, a triathlete, and done a lot of open water and ocean swimming, and I also used to work as a swimming coach, so I feel like I've got a lot of knowledge on this topic. Just for reference, I also share a lot of my swim sessions on my Instagram and TikTok, so if you're ever looking for workout inspiration, that's where to go. So let's dive right into it. The first topic I wanted to touch on is pool etiquette. There's a lot of unofficial rules when it comes to the swimming pool, which I feel like if you grew up going to swim squads, you maybe know them, but if you are newer to the pool situation, then this might all feel a little bit foreign. And I think that knowing good pool etiquette is going to benefit literally everyone from the beginners to the most advanced swimmers, because we all have to share a swimming pool, and understanding what's going on around you is only going to make it a more enjoyable experience for everyone. So when you arrive at the pool, one of the first and most important things is choosing the appropriate lane for you. Now, most swimming pools that I've ever been to will have different lanes labeled according to your speed. So there'll often be a slower, medium, and a fast lane. I think a good rule of thumb is the fast lane is if you're swimming laps faster than 50 seconds for 50 meters. The slow lane is if you're going slower than 80 seconds for a lap, and medium is somewhere in between. But I do think it's better to just stop and pause before you jump into the pool, have a look at the speeds of the other people in the lanes and judge by that. In Australia, we swim on the left-hand side and then swim in a clockwise direction. In some other countries, I know America, they swim anti-clockwise. So this will depend on the country that you're in. When you're not swimming and you're just waiting at the end, I think it's best to move right over to the corner, honestly either side, so that people can tumble turn in the middle of the lane and push off again. The worst thing is when people are standing at the end of a lane having a chat and they're just blocking the whole wall, because it means that people can't come in and do their turn and continue on. So that would be my biggest tip, is to stay over to the corners so that you're out of the way and being respectful of the other people in your lane. I think it's totally normal for people to be slightly different speeds within one lane, so it's just good to be aware of what to do if you're either too slow or you're feeling too fast. If you're swimming faster than the person in front of you, it is okay to go around. I have always learnt that it's okay to give one tiny little tap on toes before you swim around, just so that people are aware. However, some people will get really pissed off if you keep touching toes. That's pretty much like the most annoying thing you can do at the pool. So it has to be a really tiny tap and then you need to go around. Keep in mind though that there might be other people coming in the other direction, so you need to stay on the black lane, swimming freestyle, and really keeping your arms in kind of close to you so that you're not whacking other people in the arm, because that also really hurts. Otherwise, the other option is to just slow down and then overtake them at the tumble turn. If you feel like you're swimming too slow, you don't need to stop. I would just suggest always moving over closest to the lane rope so that you're kind of out of the way. And then if you want to just pause quickly at the end of the lap and let somebody go ahead, honestly, just having a conversation with the other swimmers in your lane is the best thing to do. I think sometimes we get a little bit awkward and people can get a little bit silent, but sometimes it's best to just be like, hey, I'm swimming, 8 by 100 meter freestyle. I'm going to be stopping at the end of each lap. That way people can adjust and know what's going on around them. The other thing is, don't push off. Oh my God, this one pisses me off actually. Please don't push off the wall like 2 seconds after somebody else has just started their lap. Make sure you're leaving a gap of 5 seconds, if not 10 seconds or 15 seconds if the pool isn't too busy. The worst thing is having somebody sit right on your toes when you're trying to swim and like relax. So make sure you leave enough gap between you and the person ahead of you. The next thing I get a lot of questions about is my swimwear. So I think it's most important to just pick something that you feel most comfortable in. For me, that's wearing a one-piece swimsuit. I find that having something relatively tight is most comfortable because it means that when you're in the water, your suit's not filling up with water and creating extra drag. I'm gonna put up some of my favorite brands for swimwear. Next, let's talk about equipment. So the first 2 pieces of pretty much essential equipment are a cap and goggles. So this is the type of swimming cap that I prefer to use. This is a silicone swimming cap. Mine's pretty sticky because I didn't dry it out last time. So as you can see, it has a spine or kind of like a fold. This is like the #1 way to tell that somebody's a beginner. The spine is meant to go along the center of your head. Like it's meant to follow your hair part. If somebody's wearing their swimming cap sideways like this, it's an instant giveaway that you're a beginner. The main purpose of a swimming cap is simply to make your head more smooth and to reduce drag. So if you've ever tried to swim with your hair out, especially if you have long hair like me, you'll notice that it really pulls and makes your head feel really heavy. A swim cap is not designed to keep your hair dry. The other thing to know about wearing a swim cap is it should sit relatively low on your forehead, and then it should cover most of your ear, but it might just cover half of your ear. A lot of people also seem to be quite surprised that they get water in their ears when they swim, and honestly, that's just part of it. Somebody messaged me about like what can they do to stop water going in their ears. You can either wear earplugs or do what I do is get water in your ear and then shake it out like this after the pull. Sorry to break some hearts. This can only do so much. The next thing is goggles. These are my favorite current pair from Speedo. This is big sister advice. If you want to look like you know what you're doing, get small-ish goggles like these. Bigger goggles are an instant giveaway of a beginner. They're totally comfortable and they're totally fine to use. It's personal preference. Most like experienced swimmers will be wearing a smaller style. They also create a little bit less drag and can be a bit more comfortable on the face. But with anything, goggles are a very specific shape and everybody has different eye sockets. So you might just have to play around with different styles and see what works best for your face shape. There's a few different types of goggles as well. So these ones, as you can see, are quite like dark. These are great to use in an outdoor pool or if it's going to be really sunny because they kind of act as sunglasses. If you're doing open water swimming or triathlon or you're swimming in an indoor pool, you might want to get some goggles that are more clear because they'll give you more visibility. I've got my swimming kit bag here with me as well, and I thought we could just quickly go over some of the pieces of equipment that you might like to use. This is a kickboard. You use this for kicking, so just practicing your legs. You can either hold it like this with your head up or hold it at the bottom so that you can have your head and face in the water. This is a really good piece of equipment for beginners because it helps your hands to float, and then you can practice single arm freestyle, breathing to the side. This is probably the first piece of equipment I would recommend for a beginner swimmer. Next up, we have a pull buoy. So basically this is like a piece of foam you put between your legs and it helps your hips to float. So when you're using a pull buoy, you're typically not kicking your legs, you're just using your arms. This is a really great tool for triathletes because typically in triathlon you want to be using mostly your upper body in the swim and then saving some energy for the cycle and for the run in your legs. Next up we have flippers, or sometimes called fins. These are just one type. You can get shorter ones, longer ones. Basically, you put these on your feet and they aid you in kicking. So again, these are really good for beginners because you can put them on your feet. It makes kicking a little bit easier and that can help you working on your body position, your arms, your breathing. These are called hand paddles. These are secretly my least favorite piece of equipment, but a lot of triathletes love these. They're really great for improving your stroke because basically what you do is you put your middle finger in here, 2 fingers in there, other 2 fingers there, and these basically act as like an extra bit of pull. Basically when you're swimming with these on, it makes the water feel a little bit heavier because you're pushing it with more force. I found these really did improve my stroke when I started using them, because if you come in with a weird hand angle, this piece of plastic really grabs onto a lot of water and it makes your wrist go in a weird way. So it forces you to find that really smooth motion to push all the way through the water. The other thing it's really good at is if you're swimming, you do a full stroke and you kind of forget to finish all the way back like this, as you should, and you kind of come out of the water too quickly. Again, it catches with water often underneath here and it kind of rips your hand, not in a painful way, just in a way that signals, okay, that wasn't the smoothest, most efficient stroke I could have done. I don't personally love using paddles, however, I do think that they're great for improving your technique. So if you want a new toy to play with, I would recommend getting some hand paddles. Last but not least, this is an elastic band basically. This used to be, I think, a cycling tube, like a tire tube, which my coach cut up and has tied together. This is not a very common piece of equipment, especially not for like beginner swimmers. However, I think this made me the strong swimmer that I am today. Basically, you put this around your ankles and it stops you from being able to kick. Sometimes you'll use the pull buoy and the band, which means that your hips are floating, but your feet can't kick. So that's when you would be working on just your arms and doing some pull. If you take the pull buoy away and you use just the band, it means that you can't kick, but it also means that you don't have much balance and you're really forced to get your own body into a good position and keep your hips up. If you try this, you'll notice that your feet start to drop pretty quickly. But if you're kind of an intermediate swimmer and you want to improve your strength, I would highly recommend giving this a try. It will make you so much stronger. Okay, the most common question I get asked is, how do I take care of my hair in the chlorine? I'm going to preface this by saying that if you're choosing to swim in a chlorinated pool, I think you just kind of have to accept that your hair is going to get wet and your hair might get a little bit affected by chlorine, and that's just part of it. I have kind of come to terms with the fact that my hair is wet most days and I do wash it more regularly than other people. I know there's a lot of like propaganda about washing your hair just once a week. It couldn't be me. I'm washing my hair almost every single day, especially when I was swimming competitively and we were training every single day. I was rinsing out my hair, at least using shampoo pretty much every single day. And yeah, my hair got a little bit dry from the chlorine, but it's just kind of part of it. I mean, everybody has different types of hair. Like I know that a lot of my friends who have a completely different hair type to mine are affected differently. So I'm just talking about hair care from my own experience and what has worked best for me. I think if you're just swimming once or twice a week in the chlorine, you don't really need to worry. Honestly, chlorine is not going to affect your hair that quickly. It's really if you're at the other end and you're swimming every single day, that's when you really need to take some special care of your hair. What I've found works really well for me is showering at the pool straight away so that my hair is having the least amount of time sitting in the chlorine. I have tried a range of different products that are designed specifically for swimmers and getting rid of chlorine. I'll insert some of the ones I've tried here. My other tips would be to air dry your hair as much as you can, avoid using heat. The next thing would be skincare. Now, I really struggled with my skin when I was a teenager and I was swimming in the pool all the time. I had pretty bad acne, my skin was usually pretty dry, and I got quite a bit of eczema in random spots on my body. And I do think that that was just a buildup of chlorine combined with being a teenager and not really knowing how to take care of my skin. So some of my advice would be rinse off as quickly as you possibly can after you swim. Number 2 is get a good moisturizer. Honestly, I use cheap ones from the supermarket. The Vaseline or Sorbolene ones are pretty good. I just use those all over my body straight after my shower because sometimes the chlorine can make your skin feel kind of like tight, but I find that putting moisturizer on straight away is the best thing for it. I also then use a Nivea moisturizer, which is again just another quite cheap product. And the best thing that I found for acne, I had the worst acne as a teenager and honestly throughout my early 20s. And I think one of the mistakes that I made was using quite harsh products because I think combined with the dryness of the chlorine, they were just too much on my skin. So I choose to use really gentle products right now. Another question I get asked a lot is how I take care of like body hair. Honestly, I've just been shaving my whole life and I've never really had a problem with it. I think a lot of of people have a bit of insecurity around these areas, and I totally understand that. I think the more time you spend in a swimsuit, the more comfortable you'll get. I think that I used to think that my bikini line needed to be like absolutely perfect all the time, like there couldn't be lumps and bumps and you can't miss a day, and that would just like really get in my head. But I think as I've gotten older, I've just realized like nobody cares. Nobody's looking at your bikini line to start with. Everybody at the pool is pretty much just focused on swimming their own laps. So my perspective is like good enough is good enough. And that brings us to the end of this video. I feel like I have so much more I could share with you guys about technique of all 4 strokes and some of my favorite drills, tumble turns, touch turns, diving, tips for triathlon, open water swimming and ocean swimming. So let me know if you'd like me to do a part 2 to this video, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok and Substack. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Love you guys, happy swimming.